The PC that a tech content creator uses is a very curious thing. It's something that viewers show a lot of interest in because we make videos covering a wide range of products and form opinions on them, but at the end of the day, what do we ultimately choose to have in our own personal system? I stream every single week, and every stream I get questions asking what is in my build, so that's what this video is. This is my newly built editing, streaming, and gaming PC. I do it all in one. I don't have a separate system for content creation and a separate one for gaming. I mix business and pleasure, I guess you could say. This looks kind of similar to the system I'm upgrading from, which I last made a video on about a year ago, but aside from being in a vertical style ITX tower, this build and that one are nothing alike. So let's check this out. This build was made possible thanks to Micro Center. They sent out a number of the parts, and I'm super grateful that they were able to help out with it. I speak very highly about Micro Center all the time, and that's because it's one of the best places to go for all your tech needs. It literally is tech heaven. Desktops, laptops, computer parts, monitors, TVs, etc. You name it, and they likely have it, and at great prices too. Right now, they're running a crazy good deal for their new customer exclusive. You can get $50 off when you purchase a Ryzen 5600X or a 5800X, and that's stackable with their usual $20 off CPU mobile bundle discount for a total of $70 off of their already lower than competition pricing. If you're looking to put a build together, you can use their custom building tool, which has a compatibility checker to make sure everything works together. It also pulls parts from stock that's available at your nearest Micro Center. Add it all to your cart and you can arrange for same-day in-store pickup. I'm telling you, when Micro Center finally opens up a physical location in Washington State, and I know they will eventually, we're way too big of a tech hub for them not to have one, I can finally die a happy nerd. But as always, I'll have links down below from other retailers as well in case you wanted to check these parts out for yourself. But let's talk about what's going on inside the system. First up is the processor. I'm switching back to Team Blue for this build, and I went with the i7-12700K. Having spent the last few years using Ryzen processors, which I thoroughly enjoyed, I wanted to change it up a bit, especially with how successful of a generation this was for Intel. I'm not a fanboy of any brand in particular. I think Teams Red, Green, and Blue all have great products, as well as sometimes not so great products. I've had a pretty good balance of using both AMD and Intel processors in the past. Before my last few years of using Ryzen, I was on the i7-8700K, the 6700K, the 4690K, the FX8350, the Phenom 2 X4 975. So yeah, no particular bias, I just use whatever makes sense at the time. For cooling, I originally intended to use this Cooler Master V240 AIO, but due to an oversight on my part, I wasn't able to use it because the unit I got does not include the required LGA 1700 brackets. They're available on Cooler Master's website, but with the long processing and ship times, they wouldn't have come in time for me to release this video per schedule, so I quickly pivoted to the first one-day shipping AIO I could buy on Amazon that not only comes with the required brackets, but also fits into the case I'm using, and lo and behold, we've got the V-True V240. I couldn't find much information about this cooler at all. All I knew was that I needed an AIO fast, and this was the only option that was compatible on short notice. So far, it's working well with no issues. I paired the 12700K with this motherboard, the Gigabyte Z690i Aorus Ultra. To be completely honest, I didn't really have a choice with this because there wasn't much else I could go with, and that's because this is the only Z690 ITX motherboard that supports DDR4 memory, at least available in the US anyways. There are plenty of ATX and micro ATX boards that are DDR4, but for ITX, this is pretty much it. I went for this board because I personally don't think DDR5 memory warrants enough benefits to justify the exorbitant costs right now. It works out that this board is currently priced very well at the moment. I was able to buy this for $150, which for being Z690 and ITX is a fantastic deal. That great low price doesn't come without drawbacks though. There is an issue with this board, and I found out about it afterward. Gigabyte recently issued a recall on them due to reports of numerous users experiencing compatibility and crashing issues when using PCIe 4.0 graphics cards. I decided to take the risk and try it out anyways because it was priced so well, and because I was so stern about sticking to DDR4, and to my luck, I've had zero issues with it with the two PCIe Gen 4 cards that I've used with it. I made sure to check both in BIOS and with GPU-Z that I was indeed running Gen 4, and thankfully I haven't run into any problems. For the graphics card, I chose the RTX 3070. This one is the Asus TUF gaming model. It took about a year and a half, but these are now in stock and readily available from retailers, floating around $600 for the lowest cost models, which is still 20% over the target MSRP of $500 when these initially released, which isn't ideal, but what can we do? I'm upgrading from using an RTX 2060 for the last few years, so this is going to give a very nice performance uplift, being one gen newer and one tier up in the product hierarchy. So my original plan was just to use this card in the system, but during one of my recent streams, I got a very interesting question from someone in the chat. Drebler Gaming says, Danny, how come every content creator talks about AMD GPU all the time, but no one of them use it in their personal rigs ever? I think that was a really good point that was brought up, and I know exactly what they're talking about, because that definitely is the trend for content creators. Lots of PC tech channels showcase builds with AMD cards in them, mainly because they're priced more reasonably with respect to MSRP, and they provide a better value from a pure rasterization FPS per dollar standpoint. However, I don't know a single content creator, including the ones in my close circle of friends, that use an AMD GPU. They're all Nvidia because Nvidia has the popular NVENC encoder, which is useful for both streaming and video editing. But AMD has a hardware encoder too. I don't have much experience using it, but due to this point being brought up, I am going to now pivot this build. I will personally be using an RX 6700 XT, this one right here actually, in this system for the foreseeable future to see if I really need all the extra features that Nvidia cards come with, or if I'll enjoy using an AMD card just as much. RX 6700 XTs can be found at $500 any day of the week right now, and RTX 3070s being at $600 makes it a pretty noticeable price difference. For the benchmarks later on in the video, I'll be showing results from both cards side by side in case any of you out there are trying to decide between the two. For memory, I went with 64GB of G-Skill Ripjaws 5 3600 CL18. I'm not going for flashy aesthetics in this build since there's no glass side panels, so that's why I chose this RGB-less kit with a clean stealth look. This will be my first time using 64GB in my personal system, so I'm looking forward to seeing if there's a noticeable difference over the 32GB I've been using up to this point. I'll be carrying over some SSDs from my previous build, but like every new build, I like starting off with a clean slate with the Windows installation for a fresh and snappy feel, and that will be going onto this 2TB Inland Performance NVMe SSD. This is a Gen 4 drive, so it's super fast with regards to read and write speeds, and the 2TB will definitely be utilized to the fullest. This will house my OS, my games library, and act as a scratch drive for content creation. For the power supply, I went with Cooler Master's B750 SFX Gold. As with all SFX power supplies, this carries a small form factor premium, but overall isn't priced too bad considering it finds itself in the A tier of the popular PSU tier list, where power supplies are generally pretty pricey. And last but not least, we have the case. To be honest, this is probably the part I'm most excited about. This case is the Height Revolt 3. This is a mini ITX vertical tower, and by far the most unique thing about this is the built-in handle at the top, which can be popped out by a spring-loaded mechanism and hides away flush when not needed. You all should know me by now. I'm obsessed with handles. I've used a number of cases with handles for my personal builds in the past because it makes transporting my systems to LAN parties a lot easier, and just overall maintenance is way more convenient. Taking something like this outside to blow it out is way easier than a standard mid-size tower. It definitely promotes me cleaning my system a lot more regularly than if I did have a standard mid-size. Aside from that though, it also has two pegs that pop out to hold accessories such as headphones and cables, and features very easy to remove toolless side panels. This case isn't the easiest to build in, and there are some restrictions with how big of components you can have inside, as with all ITX cases, but this is quickly becoming one of my favorite cases of all time. Alright, let's take a look at the build summary, which I'll show with both the RTX 3070 and the RX 6700 XT. Looking at the overall parts list, I would say that this build is pretty tame. Even though Micro Center pretty much let me choose whatever I wanted for this build, I still did my best to keep it reasonable for my specific use case and showed restraint as to not just go overboard for the sake of doing it. I will be releasing a silent build video for this system in the coming days, so be on the lookout for that. It's been a while since I've done one of those, and I've had a number of people ask for it. But here's a quick look at the finished system. Alright, time for the benchmarks. As I said earlier, you'll see results for this system tested with both graphics cards, and I'll give percentage gains and losses for the 6700 XT relative to the 3070. The games were all tested at 1440p since I believe that's the most fitting resolution for owners of these cards. Resizable bar is enabled. I've got the 12700K in here running at 5.2 GHz on the P cores and 4.2 GHz on the E cores. The memory is set to the 3600 XMP, and both cards are running at stock speeds, boosting based on the respective technologies. So yeah, sit back, relax, and enjoy the benchmarks. So there you have it. This is going to be my personal system moving forward. I'm very excited to start using this full time, and I'm curious to see how it goes with the AMD graphics card in it. I will definitely report my thoughts in the future, and you'll likely start seeing this in action soon running the upcoming streams. Question for all of you out there though, what team is the graphics card that you're rocking in your system right now? Or if you're building or upgrading soon, which team are you going to be choosing? Team green or team red? Or I guess even team blue soon, right? But yeah, which are you choosing and why? But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this video though. Hope you all enjoyed and either found this useful or entertaining in one way or another. Maybe you got some inspiration from this for your own system. But yeah, I want to thank you all as always for watching and for continuing to support the channel. Big thanks to the channel members as always for their above and beyond support. And of course, thanks to Micro Center for helping make this build happen. Quick plug to the channel merch as well. This is official merch. You can find this design as well as my original design down in the description. But yeah, stay safe out there, and I'll see you all down in the comments as well as in the next stream and or video. Bye.